In the history of the UFC, there hasn't been anyone like Brazil's Alex Pereira. His MMA stats are out of this world. After just 13 fights, 7 with the UFC in less than 3 years, he claimed the UFC middleweight title, and then the light heavyweight title. It's the shortest time and fewest bouts in the promotion to win titles in 2 divisions. By 2024, he looked all but unstoppable, and then he saved UFC 303.
Ainda não assisti, mas eu vi muito que eu fiz ali em cima.
I haven't watched it yet, but I saw a lot of what I did on the screens. I think I managed to follow our strategy well. I said I was training. We were training. Of course, it was only 2 weeks, right? It wasn't the perfect situation to do this fight, but I'm going to take advantage of the opportunity, and you saw what happened. As I said yesterday in some interviews, many people were crying about whether I was going to be ready. Are you prepared? Have you trained? Lots of people were asking. Yes, I was in Australia driving supercars and some people couldn't believe it. And yesterday, I said it like this. On Saturday, there's no way to hide it. On Saturday, we're going to prove it and we'll see who's more prepared. I proved it.
In June of 2024, Conor McGregor was scheduled to headline UFC 303 in his highly anticipated comeback. 2 weeks before his return, though, McGregor broke his toe, the fight was off, and the UFC needed a savior, but who could possibly replace Conor McGregor on 2 weeks' notice? Alex Pereira didn't just headline UFC 303. With just 14 days to prepare, the light heavyweight champ saved the card by putting his belt on the line. And it wasn't against some out-of-shape middleweight who was willing to get it on short notice. Pereira took on the former champ and #1 ranked contender Jiri Prochazka, and for a second time, the champ put Prochazka out in the 2nd round. It was incredible, but he already had bigger things in mind, literally. While still in the cage, the light heavyweight champion expressed an interest in fighting at heavyweight.
There's a reason why we're at the top of the game. Because of me and because of you. And I appreciate every single one of you. Look, what's next for me, Joe? I'm gonna get that 2nd belt. Where the is it? They should have had them 2 belts ready. Spit shine for me. They're that both in the octagon. It's never been done before.
In 2016, the featherweight champion Conor McGregor beat the lightweight champ Eddie Alvarez to become the first simultaneous 2-belt champion in UFC history. After 23 years without a dual division champion, the UFC crowned Conor McGregor. Then, light heavy and heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier, women's bantam and featherweight champion Amanda Nunes, and men's fly and bantamweight champion Henry Cejudo, all within just 3 years. For UFC President Dana White, these double champs proved to be money in the bank, or he wouldn't have okayed the fights. But in this case, White was dead against the light heavyweight champ Pereira moving up to heavyweight. I hear some of you say, but Daniel Cormier did it, so why not Pereira? Well, that's because DC was different, and not because he came into the UFC as the former captain of the Olympic wrestling team. Pereira came into the UFC as a kickboxing phenom, having previously won the Glory middleweight world title, which he defended 5 times. And during that reign, he also claimed the light heavyweight crown too to become Glory's first ever simultaneous 2-division champion.
I'm not doing just MMA, I like MMA. I think that today I have more weapons to be able to perform in my fights, right? I'm already connecting other movements, other blows, but I just need a little more time, and I think I'll be able to develop even more for the next fights. I'm training very hard. I'm an MMA fighter.
The difference between Alex and Daniel, however, is that Daniel was a heavyweight who moved down to light heavyweight, and making that cut was always a struggle for the natural heavyweight. By comparison, Pereira started at middleweight, which tops out at 185 pounds or 84 kilos. He moved up to light heavyweight, which tops out at 205 pounds or 93 kilos, which is already a huge jump in size. But jumping up again to heavyweight, where big boys like the former champ Francis Ngannou preside, is something else entirely. The 6'4" Predator cut weight to make the 265-pound or 120-kilo limit. That's another 60 pounds or almost 30 kilos in size and power. While DC wasn't nearly as tall, when he was a heavyweight, he easily weighed in at around 250 pounds or 114 kilos. But perhaps DC isn't the right comparison. The undisputed light heavyweight GOAT, Jon Jones, who moved up a division to claim the heavyweight crown, is built much more like Alex Pereira. At 6'4", Johnny Bones was a tall light heavyweight, and he used his reach advantage to become one of the most lethal strikers in the game. His wrestling background also made him a formidable grappler, and about as complete an MMA fighter as there has ever been. But when he moved up to heavyweight to face Cyril Gane, there were serious questions about his size. Unlike Cormier, Jones had to do a considerable amount of bulking to make sure he was competitive. But he got there in the end, after 4 years of bulking. And that's the thing. Standing at 6'4", Pereira is as tall as Jones. But you have to remember, it was only just over a year before UFC 303 that Pereira was a middleweight. That's 80 pounds or almost 40 kilos lighter than the heavyweight maximum, where the interim champ Tom Aspinall reigned at the same time as Pereira.
This fight means the absolute world to me. You know, I've got guys travel from the UK. Look at the size of us guys. Lock us in the cage, it's going to be absolute madness.
With the heavyweight champ Jon Jones unavailable, Aspinall fought the Russian behemoth Sergey Pavlovich for the interim belt. These are the sorts of lads Alex would have to fight. And these lads are huge.
It's heavyweight MMA with two massive guys. I'm a massive guy. Obviously, he's a massive guy. We've both got some big heads. You know, we're both sniper's dream, they like to call me with this head. So let's see if we can both, let's see if we can land on each other. And I'm sure one of us is going to land at some point.
And that's why Uncle Dana wants to keep Alex away from Tom. He may have walked through punches from the future middleweight champion Sean Strickland, and he may have beaten the multiple-time middleweight champion Israel Adesanya 3 times across 2 combat sports. But in his bouts at light heavyweight, you could see the punches already having more effect. Not in a million years could true heavyweights like Sergey or Tom, or Cyril, make the light heavyweight division, let alone the middleweight division. And at some point, they're gonna land on him. At the moment, Alex Pereira is the UFC's golden child, and Dana White wants to keep it that way. If not for Pereira's health, but for the promotion's pocket. So it could be a while yet before we see Alex get his way.
Thanks for watching, and remember, if you want more fight sports in your life, just hit the subscribe button.